Hi guys, it's Arielle again. Welcome back to Kites by Bite Photography. So, last lesson we learned about the rule of thirds and we learned about how cameras work and we learned about how pictures are basically storytelling and a little bit about shutter speed and aperture if you're interested in like the more technical advanced side of things. And today we're gonna come back to the rule of thirds a little bit. It's pretty cool the amount of things that you can use it for. So we're gonna talk about how we can tell a story with movement while we are utilizing the rule of thirds. So I'll try to draw this better this time. But back to our favorite grid. Our tic-tac-toe board, our guideline for seeing the world, it's much better drawn this time, the rule of thirds. So, how in the heck do we show movement in a still picture? You're about to find out. So, when we have something, and I like to use this example a lot, when we have something that is taking up space from one side all the way to another side of the photograph, depending on what that thing is, we can visualize the movement that it's made across the picture in our heads. It's kind of strange to think about, but again, I don't know much about the human brain, but I do know that our eyes just like to see certain things. It's just how it is. So, one of my favorite examples to use, I'll blow it up so y'all can see it, is, it's over here. Drag that down. One second. So this is an example that I like to use a lot because I think that it shows a lot of movements and it does have our grid drawn on it so you can see exactly what I'm going to explain. So here she is. This is a lady jumping across the beach holding some flowy scarf thing, right? Pretty simple, and we can tell, I'll scoot closer, we can tell that she's moving, clearly because she is standing, or rather jumping, in that position. You can clearly see that she's moving. But when you first look at the picture, your eyes are immediately drawn here, right? To her body along this third and these two intersections, her hips and her head, right? So almost her entire body is taking up this third. And then what happens is we'll start around, our eyes just kind of are drawn to the green, right? So it goes straight to the green and then it follows her up because there's this movement, right? And then here's a green scarf and it goes all the way across the rest of the image. So the scarf, or whatever it is taking up almost, it's within 2/3 of the photograph. She's also within 2/3 of the photograph. And then we just happen to be at the beach. See? 1/3 and then lots of sky. The thing is, that's in the background. It's just important for us to know where she is, but we know that she's the subject. And it's pretty pleasing to our eyes when we see this, and we just follow the curve all the way down. So when we place certain things in our photographs across the thirds horizontally, rather than just lining things up vertically, we can create movement within our photographs. And that's how we tell the story of this lady gracefully leaping across the beach. And obviously we know she's moving in that direction, not just because of the shape of her body, but because of the flowing of that green scarf. Pretty cool stuff. It's pretty self-explanatory. So when we are, pardon me, when we're taking a picture, it's important to draw lines. Lines and curves are super important. So when we are taking a picture of something, right, and we want to show movement, maybe we are taking photographs of someone going down a slide, or maybe a waterfall, something of the sort, right? Those things have a beginning and end point. So what you do is you'll have the beginning point in one area, right? Let's say we do it along this intersection, or possibly even within that, it's not a quadrant, there's 9 of them, within this 9th of our third split, and then we have it move. Say it's a waterfall or a river, right? It starts over here, right? And it moves all the way down, and we have to position ourselves and the subject in a certain way so we can create that sort of movement. And it comes all the way down, and I'm just gonna draw arrows. It comes all the way down this way, right? A clear start and end point that's passing through certain points within our split, so that way we can create movement in a still frame photograph. Because yes, videos are super cool, moving pictures, but you can still tell stories about movement within one frame. And that's kind of how we would do that. We can pretend this is like a river and it's like flowing and it's a good time. So very simple explanation of movement across the rule of thirds, or maybe it's even movement from the top of the photograph to the bottom of the photograph. We could do the same thing if, let's stay with the river example, if the river is going a different direction. So we're gonna do that. Just redraw this over here. So we're back at our now poorly drawn tic-tac-toe board for us to look at. Say the river starts here. And center of the photograph. Not such a big deal as long as we place things correctly. Maybe the river starts here, right, in this area, and maybe it flows this way, just a little bit, but it's still flowing. Beautiful drawing. It's still flowing from top to bottom this way, right? So we still see the movement of the river, and again, you know, maybe there's some like trees. I'm a very good artist, I promise. Maybe there's some trees or something, but we can still show movement and follow the rule of thirds by positioning ourselves and our subject in the correct places. Pretty simple, very fun and easy to do, and once you've been practicing this for a really long time, it becomes second nature, and then everything that you're doing just becomes split in thirds, and then you become the best photographer of all of your friends, and then basically they're like, hey, will you take pictures for my Instagram or for Facebook or Twitter or something, you know? And then you're the cool photographer friend because you know these simple, easy guidelines that just make pictures more pleasing to look at and more artistically interesting. So that's how you get a one-up on being the cool photographer friend in your group. That's kind of what happened to me, and look at me now. So there's that. So we can use that to show movement. And now with movement, we can move on to more artsy sort of photographs, because I know that a lot of you guys are very into social media, which I'm not promoting or not promoting, social media, but I do know that everybody nowadays has a smartphone with a camera, has their own camera, is constantly taking pictures, and I think pictures are a great way to obviously store memories and tell stories about our lives and our friends' lives, and it's a good way to just enjoy yourself and have fun. So how do we make our pictures look super cool, gram ready? I sound interesting when I say that, you know, ready for the gram. How do we make our pictures really cool and ready to post on Instagram or send it to our friends or show it to our parents or other friends and just like show off how cool we are and artistic? And we can do those things again by following these rules. But also, if you remember last week, I mentioned a few things which, you know, were just cool to look at. If you happen to look up aperture, or if you happen to look up shutter speed, you can alter those things to get cool and artsy photographs. So maybe you're taking a picture of a flower, and I know a lot of people have phones that have portrait mode or something related to portrait mode, because I know that Androids have something called live focus. It's the same thing. Basically, what you do is your phones can alter what's in the foreground and what's in the background. So if you're using portrait mode or live focus, you may have noticed that when you use that, your subject is in focus and everything else is fuzzy. And that's utilizing aperture. Even though our phones aren't doing it the same way that our cameras do it, it's the same sort of idea. So we can take really cool pictures where it looks like, I have an example here, where it looks, where'd it go? Where it looks like this. And I'm just gonna blow it up a teensy bit. Good enough. Whoop. Where it looks like this. And I don't know if you guys can see the difference that the top half of this photograph is split from the bottom half, so you can see the difference between the aperture taken from this and this. So it's the same flower, it's the same exact photograph, they've just altered what's going on in the foreground versus the background. So when you're using portrait mode or live focus, and say, again, you want to take a picture of a flower and you want it to look really cool, what you can do is you can use portrait mode, again, or live focus, and you can blur the background and have just, I'll try to cover this, and have just the flower in focus. And now you see all this pretty soft green behind it, but you don't have to see the dirt and that random red leaf or something, you know? It's just the flower, and it's pretty cool. And then people are like, whoa, how'd you do that? It's because you have photography smarts. Use your noggin. Other interesting things that you can do to make your pictures look artsy is that other things that you can do to make your pictures look artsy is that you can utilize blur. It's the same sort of thing like when I mentioned shutter speed. It's a bit difficult to do on your phones, but if you do have a camera where you can slow down the shutter speed, or possibly there may be a setting on the dial at the top where it's not slow-mo, but it takes the pictures much more slowly, you can turn off the lights and take a sparkler or a glow stick or something and like twirl it around and take cool pictures where it's like drawing lines in the lights. And then again, everyone's like, how'd you do that? It's pretty cool. Photography is a really good and fun way to express yourself and to let other people see the world through your eyes, because the camera is just an extension of our eyes. And it's pretty cool that we get to show people how we see things. So, speaking of how we see things, this is the portion where we'll be introducing the scavenger hunt. And I encourage you guys, there's going to be a list posted, you may already be looking at it. I encourage you guys to have as much fun with this as possible. Check off as many or as little things on the list, but go around your houses and your backyard and try to share with us in a very artistic way how you've been spending your quarantine and been experiencing this strange time that we're all existing in. So like I mentioned last video, maybe you've been reading a lot of books, so maybe you're gonna take some sort of picture of the books you've been reading. Maybe you've been spending a lot of time outside. Maybe you've been learning how to do other art projects, or maybe, like me, you've just been working on a bunch of homework for school and learning new things. So within this scavenger hunt, you're going to tell me and the other people, should you choose to share the pictures on the drive I will create, how you've been handling things and just like how you've been doing. Feel free to be as creative as possible. There are some things on the list that seem kind of obscure, like maybe it says something red, right? It doesn't, so I have a Sharpie that's red. So if there's something red, I don't have to just like take that picture like that of the Sharpie. Maybe I want to get a really close zoomed in picture of just the cap, and maybe it'll kind of look like this. And like, if I can get it to focus, but you know, it'll just be like a really close picture of something that has an interesting texture in that color. Or maybe if you're trying to tell us, again, I'm just gonna keep going back to the book example, that you've been reading a lot of books, maybe it's something, this is just a stack of paper, but maybe it's something that's like really close up of the book pages, and you just see like the corners of the book pages. You have the entire world at your disposal within your house from your eyes and your camera to create something cool and magical with the most mundane things that we own. And I really hope that you guys can like have as much fun taking pictures as I do, and that maybe I really hope that you've learned something new and that you've really enjoyed this time. I wish so much that we could all be together, but I think this is a really interesting time for us to learn something about ourselves and learn something new. When else are we really gonna get the chance to kind of take a break from things? Even though camp is a break, this is a different kind of break, where we can be introspective and we can be creative and we can become artists. I believe everyone's an artist, and I think that photography is like one of the best gateways into art, because everyone does it differently and it means something different to everyone. Every single picture means something different to everyone. So I just really hope that you guys have enjoyed this, and that you've learned something. And if you want to learn more, hit up the internet. We have so many resources at our disposal, especially right now. So if you want to learn more about photography, Google something. Watch some YouTube videos. There's some really great tutorials, or even just like online lessons, like 10-minute lessons. But thank you guys for hanging out with me and taking the time to watch me sit in my living room and talk to a camera for a little bit. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a really great summer, even though we're at home. Bye guys.